listening to the AZREIA Show. If you're looking for quality real estate investing information that you can trust, you've found it. Stay tuned and join the tens of thousands of members that have already benefited from AZREIA, your home for education, market information, support, and networking opportunities that will advance your real estate investing career.
Welcome to the AZREIA Show. I'm Mike Del Prete, and we have Marcus Maloney.
Hello, hello, hello.
Now, isn't that an odd spot to be in all the time? Like, I always go, hello.
I know, right?
What do I say? So today we have a special episode. No guests today, just me and Marcus, talking real estate. And we're going to go on another topic that we've never covered before. And, the reason I wanted to kind of kick this off is because as you get older and, you're searching and you're reading, you're always trying to better yourself. And you're kind of just going into it, Marcus. I've read 1,000 books on real estate, business, all that stuff.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, you always push off the Bible and you're like, it's all in here. Yep. Yes, obviously people just, they spin it and they're good principles and we use them in so many different ways. And I'm always like, it goes back to the Bible, and I've always pushed it off, or you kind of don't talk about it, or because people might get whatever past all that.
Yeah.
Past all. I think I'm at that old man age. Right. So anyways, so it's like, whatever, man. And it's like, if you look at it, the more I look, you read more of it. So I'm not going to be an expert in any way today. So, it says, if you do this, this will happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But you ignore it.
Right.
It's like, and so it's like, I love business, love real estate. So I was like, I saw a video by Myron Golden. He's on YouTube. Love his teachings. Probably, explain his way, but he's a pastor, so crushed this whole topic, but inspired me to say, hey, let me and Marcus talk about King Solomon, who is the wisest and wealthiest man. And let's try to apply it to real estate investing.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
So first off, I am a believer, firm believer,
mm-hmm.
In Christian faith and the Bible. And I know, Mike, you
mm-hmm.
as well. And people that went through our wholesale course, they always got a chance to look at my schedule, right? My
mm-hmm.
itinerary. And the first thing on my itinerary at 5 a.m. in the morning is prayer, consecration time, and things like that, right? Because
mm-hmm.
I'm a firm believer that everything that I do here, right, is just a manifestation of my communication and my talk with God, right? Because I know there were deals that I've firmly believed by the numbers I should not have done, right? But I did them because I was pushed. God gave me inclinations. Hey, you need to relook at that. You need to look at that. And I'll give you an example, right? And I know this is not where we were supposed to be going, but
it doesn't matter.
An example of, I had a property that I purchased, but it was in Illinois, right? It was on the market, but there was a squatter in the property.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't see the interior. It said that it was 2 units, two units down, 2 bedrooms down, 1 bedroom up, but you couldn't see the property.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing I ever do, right? I always gonna want to lay eyes on the interior of the property. And people know, people know about Illinois, there's squatter rights that's being overturned in January. But, I could have had that property and not been able to get into it or get any rent or anything like that this was 2 years ago,
mm-hmm.
right? But God just kept kicking me, look at this property, look at this
mm-hmm.
property. And I was like, nah, man, you can't get into it and everything like that. So lo and behold, I just called my agent up there. She went and she kind of talked to the tenant, couldn't get inside or whatever. And so I went in blind,
mm-hmm.
talked to my lender. It's like, hey, I can't get into the property. I have no idea what it looks like. But I could pick up 2 units for the price of 1. And he was like, well, let's just go ahead and do it. Me, I'm second guessing it. I'm like, you sure? That was a quick answer, not knowing what the interior looks like. Lo and behold, we went on ahead and did the deal, and come to find out, the tenant was promised by the old landlord, the old owner, that he could buy the property. So he started doing some repairs and fixing everything up. And he was like, you know what, man, I'm not even worried about it. I'll be out of here. Just give me a lease for 1 month and I'll be out of here in 30 days. Mm-hmm. The guy paid the rent and was out in like 21 days in 3 weeks versus a month. And property was in immaculate condition.
Wow.
Literally had to put no money into it because it was already rent ready because he was getting it ready.
And that's faith, right? So it's one of the hardest things I've always struggled with. Like, literally, this is where like we all got a lot going on, right? You got a million things going on. Sometimes it's like you have so much going on. It's like even you're delegating, you're like your mind's still like overseeing a lot, right? And I swear I was like, Jesus, take the wheel. like I always heard that, and I swear, like it was this morning. I was like, it just felt relief, like, you know, so. Because we like to go investors, we want to control everything. You want to see everything. Business owners, we got to actually do what you just did and be like, it's gonna work. There's already a plan. It's gonna work. You know, it's hard.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
It's really,
and you know what? And as you read the Bible, right? It's funny because, you know, you think of Paul and you think of Solomon and you think of David and all of these battles that they had to go through, and you know, you're like, but the angel came down and told them exactly what to do. Only thing they had to do was follow those instructions, right? And the same thing God does for us. He tells us exactly what to do, but sometimes we just don't want to follow those instructions.
Yeah.
And I think one of the most critical things that we as human beings do now is we don't have that quality time of just peace and tranquility, right? A lot of times you wake up because the phone on your alarm on your iPhone goes off, or you get a text message and then it automatic go, you know, but I try to make it a firm practice that in the morning, just quiet, you know,
huge,
as quiet as possible. Meditate just so I can hear and get clarity of thought. And then I do my praying. And
another thing on praying, it's like we're always talking about networking and building relationships, right? And how to become a better network or whatever it is, or we talk about relationships every day in real estate. Yeah. I'm like, do you even do you even pray? Like sometimes I pray like, oh, this is boring, like 30 seconds, I'm done. You know what I mean? Like, but no, man, like I think the longer you can do that, what you do, how long do you pray for?
I try and go from 5 to 6 o'clock, not all praying, right? I try and commit 30 minutes to prayer and then 30 minutes to just meditation, right? Because it's a conversation, right?
It is,
if you're praying, you're always talking, right? So it's a one-way street. But when you sit back and meditate, now you're the receiver. Now you can receive answers to what you was praying about. Never told you this, Mike.
Wow, yeah. Things like pop in your head.
Yep.
You're like, oh, that makes so much sense.
So much sense. Yeah. Because when you're praying, it's just always, okay, Lord, do this, please. I need you. Thank you for this thing. But then it's like, God is like, okay, when am I going to get a chance to talk?
Yeah.
You know?
True.
But I never told you this. Like, even when it come to AZREIA, I vividly remember I was praying one morning and then I was done praying and everything. And then I was leaving my backyard, coming through the slider, and I just heard something in my ear that said, call Mike Prete, see how he's doing.
Yeah, cool.
Me and you hadn't talked in months, probably a year or so, maybe more. And I reached out to you, and I was like, hey, Mike, how's everything been going? You know, banter back and forth. And I was like, hey, I was thinking about, man, why don't we do like a wholesale class at AZREIA? And lo and behold, he was like, man, I was thinking about that. You know, I think that's really something that we should do. And who knows if we wouldn't have had that conversation, what we lead up to where we are now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you were doing stuff with AZREIA, but that thought of, you know, just owning it and going into it, I don't know, maybe you were thinking that direction, but it's funny how just one little whisper can change the course and the direction of something.
So true. Cool story, man. All right. Let's jump in.
I never shared that with you.
Yeah.
So
No, great story. Yeah, you just don't know. Yeah. Listening to the answers, accepting them, right? Not ignoring them. All right. So I know we didn't kick off on the first topic, but it was good conversation. So what's coming is why wisdom matters more than money, how to build a vision, the real purpose of wealth, how to start your real estate investing journey the right way. So stick around. We're jumping right into it. So wisdom is greater than wealth. Proverbs 16:16. How much better to get wisdom than gold, to get insight rather than silver. So Solomon's principle, wisdom. You know what's another good thing? I'm going to sidetrack.
Let's talk.
Yeah, man. The Myron Golden guy, he was talking about putting out content in social media. He's like, King Solomon wrote 3,000 Proverbs and 1,005 Psalms. Yep. He's like, he was putting out quality content right
back then.
And I have some notes of the results of that. So, all right, cool. So wisdom must precede wealth. He asked God for wisdom, not riches, and received both. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts?
So one of the passages that I go to in the Bible is where it says, and I believe it is in Proverbs, where it says, wisdom is the principal thing, right? It's the beginning, right? You get wisdom to get answers, to get wealth, right? Because if you don't have that first thought, about, okay, what can I do in order to generate revenue? That's part of wisdom, right? Mm-hmm. Because you say, all right, I want to be a content creator. Okay, what do I need to do in order to be a content creator? What are you going to do? You're going to research other content creators. You're going to research what content should you put out. You're going to research the topics that you feel that you're a subject matter expert in order to put that out there. And from that, right, and being consistent, that's how you start to gain compensation from it or capital from it. But, if you just jump out there, hey, I want to be a content creator, and you're just talking about whatever, you have no wisdom going in that direction. So I always look at, wisdom is the principal thing. And that's what Solomon asked for. Like, God, don't give me the gold and the riches, right? Mm-hmm. Because think of how many people that inherit money. They inherit trust.
The whole lottery scenario.
But they lose it all.
Yeah.
Right? But what comes with that is if you have wisdom and you set things up the correct way, then you can retain that wealth. So the dynamic between the Vanderbilts, who were billionaires back in that 1800s, and the Rockefellers, right? Mm-hmm. Both of them made a lot of money, in their industries. One, the Vanderbilts lost their wealth after 2 generations.
Okay.
The Rockefellers are still living off their wealth, and it's 6 to 8 generations later. One was because Rockefeller had gotten wisdom on how to set up his trust to where that wealth and interest from the money that he made will be passed down from generation to generation to generation. Vanderbilt didn't do that. So one is you can make money, but how do you retain it? And that comes with wisdom. And wisdom is from sound advisors around.
And that hits perfectly for us real estate investors because we're always talking about why. What's your why? Generational wealth. Mm-hmm. Goes back to exactly what you said. You can make the money if you don't educate even your kids, kids' kids, and have those trusts and all that.
Yep, everything's set up.
They're going to lose it down the road.
You're going to lose it.
Yeah, man. So if we were, I guess, an analogy for how would you apply this to fix and flipping or landlording?
Okay. Wisdom, right? You want to get around people that know what you're trying to get into. So AZREIA is a perfect platform, right? If you want to be a fix and flipper or a landlord, you're going to come to the monthly subgroup meetings and you're going to start building those relationships with those individuals, right? That way, if you have a question, you can say, hey, Bob, I'm thinking about doing this fix and flip on this project. A wholesaler sent me this deal. I ran the numbers, but I'm kind of iffy on the ARV. Why don't you take a look at it for me?
It's huge.
Right?
Yep, man. Yeah, like for those that didn't hear my story, like from when I first got started, I swear by, coaches, mentors, or maybe counsel, right? Like, so my first deal, I was just trying to figure it out. I did a first deal, but then my second one, I was just trying to figure it out, spinning my wheel, driving for dollars, bandits, just all that stuff. And then someone called off one of my signs or Craigslist ad or whatever it was at the time. And at the end of the day, going what you said, this is another part of the story I don't usually tell. So the gentleman that called, long story short, I ended up going to high school with him, and he was already wholesaling for 5 years. So we connected, right? So now I brought him all my dead leads. He resurrected those leads into like 4 deals, made a bunch of money. And then from there, we became partners, 50-50. He was more of like a partner and coach mentor. Yep. Did 30 deals my first year because I just listened like a sponge and applied for the entire year. So I went through all that experience because of wisdom.
Yep.
That I brought wisdom around me. And what your story was in the beginning, he told me, is he went to one of those seminars, PSI, remember PSI, what I'm talking about, right? And his goal, his thing for him was in his group, his assignment was to take someone under his wing and grow them. So he goes, and for his world, right, was like, he randomly called my Craigslist ad, right? And then was like on the phone with me, and I came down to the office, and he was like, his world behind the scenes was like, I got to mentor or pick somebody for this group.
A mentee.
And I just happened to be in that.
So that alignment is there, right? It was nothing that you've done, nothing that he's done. It was already predestined for that to happen.
It just happened, right? Like, and so which goes into, we're always saying here, if you want to be in the game, you got to swing the bat. You got to be swinging, whether it's a good swing or a bad swing. And crazy things, Marcus calls me randomly, or that guy wants to mentor me or whatever, man. So
in Proverbs, there's a verse, I can't remember, I know these verses, but I don't know exactly where they're at. And it says, in the multitude of counsel, there is wisdom, or maybe it's the other way around, but it's basically saying, when you build up your advisory board, your personal advisory board, gain wisdom from all of the different people that's advising you, right? Because they may look at things from a totally different perspective.
All the time.
So when you think of business, there's always a board of directors. And that board of directors is diverse, right? You may have a doctor, you may have a lawyer, a financial strategist, so on and so forth. But they're bringing their own each area of expertise to that company or to that organization, to that CEO, to give them wisdom on how to move in a different direction or move in that direction. And as real estate investors, that's what we have to have. We have to have our own advisory board, right? And that's your accountant, that's your attorney, that's your mentor, right? That's your title agent, that's your carpenter, or your, you just got to have those people, right? Because they're going to help you maneuver in the direction that you need to go into.
That goes to, and we see a lot of people come into the business here at AZREIA every single day. And it's like, yeah, of course, a lot of us are confident and we want to figure out ourselves. But, I constantly see people asking the same questions. Just, how do I even say this? Like, sit down, they got a million questions. I want to pick your brain. Well, they're normal questions, but they don't make sense for where you're at today. You know what I mean? You can just say, stop, right? Here's what you need to do. 1, 2, 3, right?
Yeah.
But they want to ignore that because whether there's a cost to have access. Yeah, sometimes you got to pay to be around people. It's normal. We all do it. Sometimes you can find that person that might be willing to help you. Even like I see it in wholesaling, right? It's like, and this is what starts to ruin the business without wisdom, is you lock up a random deal just because the seller said, which I'm guilty of when I first started. Yes, I want to sell my house. All right, I comped it wrong. You probably comped the estimated repairs wrong. You lock up the contract. You're wasting the seller's time. You're wasting your time because no one's going to buy it. Then the seller's mad, gives a bad name to the industry. You're mad, thinking it's not working. Frustration. It just leads to nothing.
Yep.
Because you're pushing away from the wisdom that's actually right in front of you.
Right in front of you.
Crazy.
And that's the thing, right? Is because, and that's always one of my prayers is I want wisdom, right? I want to be wise in every area that I'm in, because one bad decision can tear down your house, right?
Yeah.
Versus one excellent decision can build your house, can build your portfolio, can, 10x your wealth. A lot of times when I do a lot of study on entrepreneurs and successful business individuals, they always say, you know what, there was a area of luck that I couldn't predict. They would say, if I wouldn't have did this thing, right, these results wouldn't have happened. And it wasn't because I was the smartest, I was the richest, or anything like that. It was just, I just knew that my heart or my heart told me I need to do this, and I followed that. And a lot of times people get those. I heard somebody tell me, and I can't remember who it was, because I listen to a lot of different podcasts and things like that. I'm the type of person that it's hard for me to just sit still idle, right? Because I could be doing something. So even if it's listening to a podcast, reading a book or something like that. But I was listening to a guy, and God, I lost my train.
You gave me a good story one time. You said something to your wife about that. You're always antsy, and she said something to you, kind of straightened you up. I remember.
You know what? When you're ambitious, right? It's hard to let that ambition lay dormant,
because you already know it's already going to happen regardless.
Yeah, and it's
well.
I could be doing something, right? It's like, it's hard for me to sit down and watch TV. This happened to me last night, right? Sitting down and I'm watching TV, an hour went by, right? Now I'm starting to feel guilty, like you could have used that hour for something, right? So knowing that all day earlier I was reading a book, and I read for like 4 or 5 hours, but now I took this 1 hour to watch this TV show. I was feeling guilty because I could have used that hour for something more productive. And I say all of that to say, sometimes when you're ambitious, you can let the ambition derail you at times. And that comes like I was saying earlier, I've been reading The Gap and the Gain. And sometimes we as entrepreneurs, we can live in the gap and not look at the gain that we have made, right? Not look at the strides that we have made. Like, I can look at myself 5 years ago and be like, wow, I've come so far in these 5 years. But a lot of times entrepreneurs are looking at, I'm in the gap. I'm trying to get to here, right? And it's so far for me to get from point A to point B to where we're constantly going, and we're not taking time to appreciate how far we've come.
Oh, yeah, because if you look back 5 years ago, you're probably where you're at, where you wanted to be 5 years ago. Yeah, that's
right.
Yeah.
But now you're here in these 5 years, and you're looking 5 years ahead, and you're not appreciating where you've come from 5 years early.
Which goes back to anxiety. I know a lot of people get anxiety. So if you're always thinking about the future, you're always thinking about the past, it's depression, right? So it's like, you got, how much of the day can you live right now?
Yeah, in the present.
Even I do feel, though, like at some level as entrepreneurs, it's like you do have to look at the past and remember what happened and not make that mistake again. And you do got to think about the future and have a target. That's what you do. I guess maybe that's my battle here too. When I said, Jesus, take the wheel. Right? Like, how do you just I was like, today I'm just gonna not even plan.
Yeah.
But as I'm looking at my sheet here, but
they said one of the jokes is, what is it? Tell God your plan. You want to make God laugh, tell him your plan, right? Because all of this is already predestined. And I know a lot of people don't, believe and everything like that, but I believe that everything that we have done where we are right now has already been predestined, right? We do, as human beings, we have a choice, right? That's one thing that sets us apart from animals and human is we have a will, right? We have a choice, to decide which way we're going to go. Are we going to go left? Are we going to go right? And sometimes that can be so overwhelming, right? Because you're thinking you may have these opportunities. Hey, you know what? Let's look at a fix and flip, for example.
Mm-hmm.
All right. First off, is the numbers right? You start to second guess your ARV. Hey, I don't know, is this worth 600 or is it worth 540? Right?
Mm-hmm.
We did that recently with a deal up in Cave Creek.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, I'm seeing, okay, if we do the renovations, it's 1.2 or whatever. No, Marcus, I'm thinking this is more like 775, right? So you got a big gap there. And sometimes when you get all of this information, it's hard to digest it, and you just don't know which way to go. And sometimes you just got to stop and say, okay, Lord, I don't have the answer to this. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm going to yield what I believe or what I think I believe to you. You help me in this situation.
Awesome. It always works out.
Yep.
It always works out. So,
and that's what you said right there. And that's what as believers we have to understand, right? It's always going to work out. Even if it's the negative is working for our positive, right?
it does. That's good.
Positive is working for our positive. So we got to look at that, also and say, hey, you know what? This didn't work out in this situation how I thought it was going to work out. But you look back and you say, wow, if it wasn't for this negative experience here, I wouldn't be this person.
So true.
Here.
Failure is feedback.
Yeah.
So the one who chases fast money without wisdom usually ends up with neither. So, vision before ventures. Proverbs 29:18, where there is no vision,
people perish.
Wow, you're good. All right. So the temple wasn't built by accident. It came from a God-given blueprint. Before manifestation comes vision. Without a clear what, you won't attract the how.
Yep.
Want to jump into anything? Just go with it.
So I'll kind of go back to Abraham, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, God told Abraham, leave your family, leave everything, and go from where you are to the promised land.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't have any instructions, didn't have any of that, right? But God took him out, or he took out, and God told him, look at the stars, right? Look at the sand. I'm going to make your descendants as many as the stars in the sky and as the sand on the seashore, right?
Okay.
Abraham didn't know who he was until God took him out and cast that vision for him, right? Anytime you're doing anything, you building anything, it's built here first. You got to have that vision in order to see it first before you can physically manifest and build that thing, right? So you always got to have vision.
Okay.
You always got to see it mentally before you can see it physically. Think about it. When Henry Ford built the first automotive,
Mm-hmm.
that was outlandish, right? It was stagecoach. How am I going to put an engine on a stagecoach? Basically a gas-propelled stagecoach. Never thought of, never done before.
Everyone wanted faster horses.
Everybody wanted faster horses, right? But he had the vision, hey, what if I do a gas-propelled stagecoach, not knowing that it was going to be a car that transitioned the industry, that transitioned the world, really. So you got to have a blueprint for what you're trying to do. You have to have a blueprint.
Know your why. All right. So let's give an example. Well, I guess what's a good example for any strategy? I mean, I guess this is before you got to pick a strategy in order to have that vision.
Absolutely. And I always say start with the end in mind. Go back to Stephen Covey, 7 Habits. What are you trying to build at the end of the day?
Okay.
Right? Is it generational wealth? Is it, hey, I just want to supplement my income? I just need an extra $5,000 at the end of the month. What is it that you're trying to accomplish, right? What's that goal? What's that target? And when you have that target, now go back to the Bible, right? Mm-hmm. Noah, when he built the ark, God gave him specific instructions. right? He gave him the blueprint. You got to use this kind of wood. Your sides got to be 17 cubic inches by 18 cubic. He gave him the design.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing he had to do was follow that design. Did Noah know while he was building? Yes, he knew that there was a flood. But if you study the Bible, rain has never came from the sky before.
Okay.
All the precipitation came from the ground up. So for Noah to go out and tell people, hey, it's going to be rain coming from the sky, it's outlandish. Nobody ever heard that. Yeah. Why are you building the boat? Oh, it's going to flood. There's never been a flood because the precipitation came, the dew in the morning came up from the ground to water the plants, water the grass, everything like that. So him building the boat was outlandish, like I said, but God gave him the specific instructions, the specific blueprint, and he followed that blueprint. And because he followed that blueprint, he saved his family. Okay, right. So with us as real estate investors, sometimes we just have to follow that blueprint, right? So when you're, as a developer, if you're building a house, you don't just go out there and say, okay, let me go to Home Depot and get some wood, some nails, some screws, some shingles, some gutters, everything like that, and build this house. No, it's built on paper first. Yep. There's a blueprint. And then the developer or the construction team, they just follow the blueprint. They follow what's already laid out.
So knowing what you want and knowing what you want, then you can say, hey, the best tool in real estate is buy and hold, fix and flip, right? Mm-hmm. You start to create a plan that's going to help you reach that goal.
Yep.
So you pick fix and flip, right? Mm-hmm. And then one thing you got your tool, you got your real estate with fix and flipping. And then a lot of people just like to say, hey, I want to get this course, or I just want to jump in and I just want to start flipping, right? No, but you got to build the foundation. So once you know how much money you want to make, when you want to make it by, you're going to use fix and flip. Okay, now you need a plan.
Yeah.
Right. Like, or you build your investor identity. Who are you as a flipper? What neighborhoods do you like? What type of projects you want to take on? How much risk? How much money do you have? Then it's like, okay, now you know all that. Well, I just had in my head, jump in anytime. Okay. But yeah, once you build your investor identity, now it's like, now what is a deal?
Yep.
What is even a deal? So this goes back into the wisdom, right? So it's like, okay, now that I know the neighborhoods, I know the ARVs. Do you know how to comp? Do you know how to estimate repairs? Did you build your team to go run this project? Do you have the contractors, accountants, and all that stuff? You build your team.
Yeah.
Then you go look for properties and you write offers. Mm-hmm. Even if you don't like the offer that you have to give, that's your number. You don't get emotional. You don't get into the deal just to do a deal and get a learning lesson. That right there is the blueprint.
Yeah.
And when you get into real estate investing, but everyone just seems to not want to do it.
What's funny, Mike, we talk about this, right? We talk about biblical principles and we talk about the Bible. What was Jesus's trade?
Carpenter, yeah.
He was a carpenter.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So all symbolisms that he used in the Bible are symbolisms of carpentry and building. And what do you say? I'm the chief cornerstone of the foundation. The chief cornerstone is the brick that everything is built upon, right? And if you remove that chief cornerstone, everything on that building is going to collapse. He talks about foundation. When he told, forgot who it was, to build the temple, Solomon and David, he told David, you don't build a temple, Solomon build a temple. I'm going to give you the specs. I'm going to give you what needs to be in there. I'm going to, again, like he told Noah, I'm going to give you the type of wood that you're going to use. You're going to use these golden pendants. And not only that, he also gave him where you're going to get this wood from and where you're going to get these items from, right? He said, you reach out to this king over here. He has the best lumber, right? You reach out to this person over there. They have the best people that do measurements, right? You contact this person over here. He has the best, do the best interior design. And I say interior design, but it talks about, the gold inlay in the temple and everything like that. So those instructions and those blueprints are there. And Jesus, he's the master carpenter builder.
That's true. So that's, saying like we ignore all these principles or we realize they're all from the Bible. So it's like, that's here what we try to do to set you off on the right path at AZREIA. That's why we have all the subgroups and all the networking events. So you have all the right people to have access to. We do the Launchpad. We help you build a business plan. We do 30-minute momentum session or breakthrough sessions so you could understand what's out there and create that plan. Go to the Launchpad. That's why we create the bundle, which is all foundational things: how to comp, how to estimate repairs, how to market yourself, how to raise money, just so you know what's out there so you can build that baseline, that foundation to grow off of. Yep. Then obviously there's other workshops and trainings you could dive into within your skill that you chose in your plan you made at the Launchpad. Right. Yep. So, and you just got to, and then you just stick with it until you get a deal.
Until you get it.
That's where people get thrown off. They quit too early, man. So a vague investor says, I'll try real estate. A visionary investor says, I'm building freedom through house hacking or buy and hold or whatever it may be that you choose. One gets overwhelmed, other gets wealthy.
Because one is trying and the other one is doing, right?
Yeah.
Whenever you go into something and say, I'm going to try this, you're setting yourself up for failure. Because what you're saying is, I doubt that I can accomplish what I'm trying to do. But the other person that says, okay, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to do this, there's a level of confidence, right? I talk to my son about football and I say, you know what? A coach can tell and an opponent can tell when you're playing with confidence and when you're not playing with confidence, right? So even in real estate, you can tell when you're talking to that seller on the phone and your voice is a little shaky and you're a little cracky and you're like, if and maybe, and they know that they can't put confidence in you closing that deal, right? Yeah. But if you come off and you say, yes, Mr. Seller, this is my offer, this is what I can do, and I can get it done at this number. Let's go ahead and close this transaction out. They know that you have confidence to close that deal, but if you're iffy, if you're trying, you'll never do.
And so, which is great about that. So you might be saying, oh, I'm so new. How do I get that confidence? It's such a new thing. So even me going into the political world, it's like, yo, it's nothing different than real estate. Well, it's different, but like the inner workings, like the relationships, the strategies, right? So going back to number one, wisdom. So if you got the education or surrounded yourself with the right people, and then you went into the vision and you created a blueprint and a foundation, when you talk to that seller, you're going to be like, oh, I've already ran 50 to 100 comps. Yeah. I've walked the properties with contractors and other investors 20 times. I know my number's good. Plus, I gave it to Marcus for a second pair of eyes because he's here at AZREIA and he's always helping. So it's like, yeah, Mr. Seller, me and my partner or myself, whatever, we want to buy this property at this price. And all that hesitation's gone.
It's gone.
Yeah.
Yep. You had that confidence.
Good. So let's multiply, don't maintain. I think I could probably speak on that pretty well.
Okay.
Proverbs 13:22, a good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children. Legacy is not just about inheritance, it's about multiplication. Money multiplies where systems are applied. And I know you could hit on that. The goal is not just ownership, it's exponential return. Maintain and multiply. Well, not to maintain.
Right. Okay.
Any thoughts?
So my thing is anything that's status quo is dead, right? If you're not growing, you're dying, right? If you're not growing in wisdom, education, you're regressing, right? So when it comes to money and when it comes to just growth in general, you always want to be creating some momentum to where you're growing, right? And you can't live in that world of scarcity, right? A lot of people, well, I don't want to say a lot of people, but some people live in that area of scarcity, right? I can't do this marketing because You know, what if it don't work? Then I'll just lose all my money. You know, so when we talk about growth and maintaining, you always need to be growing in some sort of capacity, right? It's important. It's important.
So we can all get comfortable. Let's talk about maintaining, meaning, you know, you start doing a certain amount of deals, or you make a certain amount of money that you're like, never thought, oh, I'd ever make that before, right? Or you buy a certain amount of rentals and it's doing well, and you just start maintaining it, right? So what can we really talk about that that goes into not just maintaining those 5 rentals and multiplying?
So it also goes back to your vision, right? What you see and what your goal was. If your vision was 5 rentals and you reached that goal, and your goal was just, hey, I need an extra $5,000 a month, then you can maintain that, right? But you also want to, and this is just my level of ambition, you also want to reset a goal, right? Okay, I hit that. I made that $5,000 quota, right? Now I want to try and go to 10,000. Now after I hit that 10,000, I want to try and go to 15,000, right? Not to say that that's what you necessarily want to do. If you want to do that, you know, keep progressing. But in the midst of all of that, right, you can't hit that $5,000 goal and then forget that this was a goal, right? You can't live in that gap saying, oh, I hit 5,000, but what I really need is 10,000, right? So now you're not happy with that 5,000 that you made. You look at that 5,000 as, oh, well, this is really nothing. You know, yeah, I got 5 rentals, but look at Joe over here. He got 25. You know, look at Susan over there. She got 300 doors, right? And then you start depreciating your own assets in your mind, right? So it's always, you always want to continue to grow.
So I think also with maintaining, I think it's probably only good for a certain amount of time, right? Because one, cost of living goes up. I don't know, right? You know what I mean? I think there's just a lot of other outside factors around life. If you just try to live off those 5 rentals for the rest of your life, I don't think you're going to maintain that same. You're going to be able to keep up with the economy, right? I don't know.
Right.
I'm just.
But another thing that comes into play, right, is the stewardship aspect of it, right? You can maintain it, and you could be a good steward of that asset.
Okay.
And then because of your great stewardship, knowing, hey, what is my outflows? What is my inflows? How can I reduce energy costs? How can I reduce my insurance? Stuff like that. That stewardship aspect really helps in helping you grow and get further. One of the things that that I always look at is, am I a good steward with what God already gave? Right? So am I maximizing what he gave me? If it's these 5 rentals, are these 5 rentals running efficiently, effectively, and being capitalized to the max? If so, and I maintain that, right, that's excellent stewardship. God to put more on top of it, right? There's a passage in the Bible, and it was a king. I can't remember who it was, but it says, how can you run with the horsemen if you can't run with the foot soldiers, right? So if you're complaining about running with the foot soldiers, your 5 rentals, God ain't gonna bless you with 20 rentals because you're complaining about these 5 rentals. You know, man, why are these tenants always calling me? I'm sick of this. Refrigerator broke down and all of this kind of stuff. He's gonna say, well, if you can't maintain these 5 rentals, why am I gonna bless you with 20?
So true. And I think along with what you're saying, being a good steward, yes, even if you have those 5 rentals and you're maintaining them even well, are you a plumber? Right? Are you here to be a plumber? Should you really be fixing that toilet?
Exactly.
All right. Like when God maybe gave you a gift to be a salesman, right? Or a good person at finding deals or maybe you're really good at raising money, but you're spending your time worrying about renewing leases
Yep.
and whatever, fixing repairs and paying fees and, running around Home Depot every day when, you could multiply that. So if you have systems, and, me too, when I first started hearing scaling and systems, kind of see a little, whoa, what's going on here? Right? Like, or it's always like hard to say, hey, I don't want to delegate that because I could do it better, or I could save $50 if I just do that myself, right? But if you actually put some systems in place, I know you're big on Podio and these processes. Can you talk about a little bit about how that's going to take time off to allow you to do what you're here for?
Yeah.
And multiply.
So again, that's stewardship of your time.
That's a good one.
Right? So if you're not a good steward with your time, always on Instagram, always on Snapchat, always on whatever, then you can't really get into what you need to get into and be a professional or proficient at what you're trying to do. So if your skill is acquisitions, right? I'm excellent at talking to people. I'm excellent at closing deals, excellent at getting deals under contract. But again, like you said, I'm over here dealing with a toilet.
Yeah.
That's taken away from the skill set that God truly blessed you with.
There's someone out there that is made to fix toilets.
Yep.
That loves to fix toilets.
Yep.
And God you're not letting them get that job.
I had a podcast that I was doing with a guy, and he kind of brought it home. He was like, you know what, Marcus? I was such a mismanager of my time. He said, I was running a restaurant, but I was kind of getting out of the restaurant business, and I was buying large multifamily units. He was like, I'm on the phone negotiating 150 a unit apartment building. At the same time, I'm writing off an invoice for buying paper towels for, one of his restaurants. Not his restaurants, but one of the restaurants he was working at.
Yeah.
He was like, so I had to sit back and I had to think about it. What is my time best suited doing? Is it trying to close this 150 unit apartment complex, or making sure there's enough toilet tissue, in a restaurant?
That's good. Yeah. Because not everyone's capable or here to run 150 units, right? That's a skill to find it, to buy it, to maintain it. And someone like him, he's good at providing safe, clean, affordable housing, Section 8, whatever it is, to this community where not everyone could do that. And he could be doing another 150 unit to help another 150 families and so on. So, man,
But he's spending time
with paper towels.
With paper towels.
There's someone that loves paper towel invoices, they would be way better at it. So true. So multiplication. That's what even, I always, bring examples up of Grant Cardone about not telling you to rent versus buy. So, but I'll say, man, that guy, if anyone talks about multiplying, he's huge on that. So we're out here to multiply, not just to buy one house, build a system at some level, delegate, get yourself out of buying paper towels, as Marcus was saying. So maintain equals survival, multiply equals generational impact.
So I would say one thing on multiplication also, Mike, is less is better sometimes, right? And Marcus, what do you mean by lesson? My thing is you have to be a good steward of what God gives you. So I make it a habit to give 10% of my earnings to whatever charity. It don't have to be a church. It could be whatever charity that you want. Because what happens is that 10% that you say, God, thank you for giving me this 100%. I'm giving 10% back to you, back to whatever nonprofit organization. He's going to bless that 90%, right? This was really hard for me, to understand in the beginning, because I was like, well, 100 is better than 90, God's math is not our math, right? When I started really tithing and focusing on principles of tithing, I was doing a lot more with the 90% that I had than I was with the 100%. There was blessings that would come, doors that would open up, right? Because money can buy you certain things. It can get you in certain rooms, but God can place you strategically, put you in a position to where you like, how did this even happen? Right? And I speak on this because there's certain deals that I know I wouldn't have been able to do, or I know probably wouldn't have came across my desk without me making sure that I was a good steward of what God gave me. And I said, you know what, God, thank you for what you've given me. I'm very, very appreciative. I'm going to live in the gap and not the gain. Here's 10% of what you blessed me with, right? Because the whole 100 is truly his, right? The whole 100, he gave you the ability to make that 100% return on whatever you're doing, right? Giving that 10% is an appreciation and an acknowledgement saying, hey, you know what, God, I wouldn't have been able to do this without you. Yes, here's 10%. Bless my night.
Yeah, man. I don't have like I just know my wife's is really good at that. You know, I think it's even like I think I'm like, think about how things work out in life. And I'm like, she's always cutting the 10%. And I'm just like, whoa, you know, the others are, but see, I got to figure it out because obviously it's our family and she's writing that.
Right.
Right. But like, I don't think mentally I fully grasp it. So I wonder if I'm holding something back. Because even though it's coming out of our family account, I'm like,
right. It's different.
Yeah. But I swear it's changed our lives, man. Like,
and the more money,
I'm not against it.
Yeah. The more money you make, the harder it is, right? You close $130,000 deal. It's hard to write a check for $13,000.
Yeah, that's wild.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Let me take that back. It's getting easier to write that check for 13, right?
Good.
Because I make sure what I speak, you know, I make sure I'm a firm believer in vision and casting and speaking and speaking what you say and everything like that. But yeah, tithing it's a principle throughout the Bible. It's a principle in The Richest Man in Babylon. You know, it's a principle. Any business book that's worth its merit is going to speak on charity and giving, right? Because that keeps you humble. Because it lets you know, hey, I may be one paycheck away from being in this position that this person is.
So true. Well said. We had 6 topics we're going to go over. So we got through 3. So there's definitely going to be a part 2. So I think that was a good start, man. So check out, if you like what we're talking about, drop a comment, hit the like button, share it with someone that needs it. Let us know, you know, what you thought about it. Ask some questions. We'll respond. We will do a part 2. So we do have to finish number 4, 5, and 6.
What do we got for 4, 5, and 6? Just so we can give a little teaser, Mike.
All right. Well, I think just naturally, like in the conversations, good stewardship was the next one, or wise partnerships and counsel. Definitely, we can hit that up. Stewardship over striving, and then obedience brings overflow.
Yeah, that obedience. That's a difficult one. It's difficult.
Discipline. You know, I could even, I'd like, even the stuff that happened this morning, I was just like, or yesterday, I was late for a meeting and I was very upset. Yeah. Yeah. Like, and it was because I wasn't being disciplined or obedient, right. Anyways. So King Solomon wasn't wealthy because he chased deals. He was wealthy because he chased wisdom. So wisdom before wealth, vision before ventures. Stewardship over. I'm going too far. So, if you want to become a real estate investor, you're interested in the world of real estate investing. We put together a 12 email series, 12 essential steps of becoming a real estate investor. You can go to AZREIA.org/12 steps, numbers 1, 2 steps, and download. It'll come up to you in the next 12 days, and you'll learn how to be an investor and know everything you need. Outside of that, continue listening to AZREIA Show. Any final words, Marcus?
No, thank you, Mike. When you presented this topic, man, it hit home, right? Because sometimes we're like, hey, we don't want to push our faith off on somebody. We don't want to come off as, that holier than thou individual. Yeah. And I suffer with that sometimes too. But I'm just talking about what works for me. And if you pick up on what's working for me and you apply it and it works for you, just share it. And if this is not good for you, like my dad from the Caribbean say, eat the fish, spit out the bone.
Well, there you go. I'm going to try to wrap my head around that one. Yeah, no, I love it. Well said. We'll keep it there. That's a wrap. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the AZREIA Show with your hosts, Marcus Maloney and Mike Prete. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you found this information valuable, head over to AZREIA.org and learn more about our community.